Welcome back to the 2013 WCS Global Finals. We're moments away from our first game. It's going to be a TVT between Bomber and MMA. And you know what is interesting about this one is it falls right in the middle of the bracket where the number 8 seed Bomber takes on the number 9 MMA. You know, just going by the seeds, this is as equal of a matchup as we can possibly get. But you talked a little bit about the differences of these two players in the pregame show. You know, Bomber versus MMA, I'm going to ask you for your predictions in just a moment, but do you think that we've got an explosive series on our hands?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we discussed a lot about how Bomber is that player that could win anything. He's of that caliber. You talk about MMA, you talk about his aggression, and I think this is an interesting point because Apollo and I were kind of talking about this series, and we're like, well, you know, it looks like Bomber pretty clearly is advantaged here, but what I like about this is that when they do go into that map selection, there's actually a game at play here. It is a mirror matchup, but Bomber's a guy who would like to CC first if he could. He would like the game to go a little bit longer, let him get his macro going, and let him just drown his opponent in perhaps Marine and Tank, whereas MMA, he'd like that Banshee opening, he'd like that Reaper opening, he'd like to start getting the game into that action sequence earlier and more often. So look for maps like, you know, the 4-player maps, that's what Bomber's going to want. And the smaller maps, the more 1v1 maps, that's what MMA is going to want.
Are you excited for this matchup, Todd?
Yes, I am. I had a chance to do analysis when Bomber played versus Teja at the WCS Season 2 World Finals, which was in Europe. And it really felt like Teja was always getting the upper end at some point, and then Bomber just had the perfect reaction to everything, all-inning at the right time when he fell behind, and Teja got surprised many of those times. But now I'm sure, as MMA here, you study a lot your opponent, you know that Bomber is capable, if he falls behind, to pull SCVs, to go for those huge attacks that are going to be very dangerous. And MMA style is really super solid terrain play with lots of drops all over the place. I really think he can out-multitask Bomber if the game lasts very long. So as long as he's being careful and safe against these very dangerous attacks that might be thrown at him, I think MMA is going to take it.
All right, well, I guess we'll officially then go to you for predictions. So you're going to say that MMA takes it? Yeah, thanks for that segue, Todd. I appreciate that.
He's like, well, with that being said, no, he's going to lose.
MMA is going to take it.
All right.
Really? You pick MMA?
Yes, I do.
All right, you're drinking the Kool-Aid of Apollo, right?
Yeah.
Because Apollo is convinced. I'm sure we'll hear all about it.
Apollo is good with prediction.
He really is. He really is. But I mean, the confidence that he exudes when he was like, "Just you watch." Like,
it makes it adorable when he's wrong. It's like, oh, little guy, good job.
All right, then.
Easy pick. Yeah, Todd went with the loser. It's an easy pick for me. It's going to be Bomber.
Okay.
Big win here.
I'm not sure what the crowd thinks about this, so I'm sure we'll find out when we introduce our players. But Todd's going to take MMA in control. Bomber, and we are going to get started here in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, you ready for our first first round of 16 matchup?
Yes.
All right.
Thanks very much to the guys. Plenty more arguments coming from them a little bit later on, but we are going to get into our very first game of the WCS Global Finals. Ladies and gentlemen, our first player is a player who has already been here to BlizzCon before. He's won the Blizzard Cup in 2011. Is it fate or is it just hard work? Let's find out from MMA.
안녕하세요. 이름은 문성원이고요. 팀 에이서 소속의 종족은 테란입니다. 재작년에 이어서 다시 한번 블리즈컨에 오게 돼서 매우 영광이고 다시 이 큰 무대에서 경기를 할 수 있다는 게 매우 긴장이 되고 흥분됩니다. 지금 이번 대회 참가한 선수들 중에서 나이가 많은 편인데 바머 선수랑 저랑 제일 많더라고요. 그래서 어린 선수들에 뒤처지지 않게끔 많이 연습했고 이번에 보여드릴 수 있을 것 같아요. 일단 가족들의 힘이랑 주변 지인분들의 힘이 굉장히 컸고요. 일단 제 자신을 믿었어요. 그리고 연습을 게을리 하지 않고 다른 사람보다 더 열심히 하려고 노력했고요. 그래서 지금 다시 성적이 잘 나오는 것 같아요.
I think everybody remembers MMA's rise to prominence. There was a period where he was untouchable. He was far and away the best player in the world.
예, 원래는 직업군인이 꿈이었는데 직업군인 하다가 다쳐가지고 나왔거든요. 그래서 다시 스타트 시작한 게 어떻게 보면 큰 행운이라고 생각하고요. 다시 스타트 하면서 가족도 변하고 저도 변하고 새로운 인생을 시작할 수 있게 된 것 같아서 스타크래프트 2 정말 사랑하고 있습니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first ever winner of the Triple Crown, the current reigning European champion from WCS Season 3, from Team Acer, MMA! And he goes head to head with a fellow Korean and a fellow Terran. He is the oldest and most experienced player in the WCS Global Finals from Startail, Bomber! And as we said, he might well be the most experienced player and the oldest player taking part in the global finals, but maybe that just gives him a little edge that he thinks might take him all the way.
안녕하세요. 저는 스타테일 소속 프로게이머 최지성이고요. 닉은 스타테일 본부를 쓰고 있습니다. 올해 초에 WCS 계획이 발표됐을 때부터 목표가 블리즈컨에 진출해서 좋은 성적을 거두는 것이었고 이렇게 진출하게 되어서 기쁘고 꼭 우승하도록 하겠습니다.
Nice split there by Bomber. Bomber's gonna win this game no matter what, man. Look at this.
나이가 좀 많은 편이라서 아무래도 멀티 태스킹 같은 부분에서는 약간 다른 선수들에 비해서 부족한 점이 많지만 반면에 경험이나 노련미 같은 부분에서는 오히려 다른 선수들에 비해서 앞서는 부분이 있으니까 그런 부분을 적절히 활용하면 괜찮을 거라고 생각해요. 시즌 3 프리미어 리그에서 빨리 떨어졌기 때문에 상대적으로 다른 선수들에 비해서 준비할 시간이 많았기 때문에 빌드 같은 것도 많이 준비했고 최대한 많이 보여드릴 수 있었으면 좋겠습니다. 제가 컨디션이 이제 좋았다가 나빴다가 하는데 제 생각에 지금은 아무래도 좋은 컨디션이 아닌가 생각합니다. 일단 8강전에서 제 생각에 가장 어려운 상대인 김민철 선수를 상대하게 되는데 8강에서 만약에 이기게 된다면 충분히 우승할 수 있다고 생각합니다.
Greetings from Los Angeles and welcome to the WCS Global Finals here at BlizzCon 2013. I am Tasteless. With me is Apollo. How you doing, brother?
I am excellent, Tasteless. I'm very excited to be here in Anaheim for this tournament. It is going to be, and it will be, the best StarCraft 2 tournament that we have ever been a part of.
Yeah, in just 2 days, we are going to crown the undisputed best StarCraft 2 player in the entire world.
Absolutely. There are 16 world-class players here, and as you said, we will have a 2013 champion very shortly.
Now, I think this matchup specifically here is going to be really close, really interesting. But before we talk about that, we're going to go through the map elimination process. We're going to start here with Bomber out of this small list, and he is going to go with an elimination of Whirlwind, which I actually am a bit surprised by. He's played really well on that previously.
Yeah, I mean, Bomber is an incredible Terran player. I really think it comes down to preparation between these two players, MMA getting rid of Youngsu there. This is a best of 5, so it's just one map veto each.
Yeah, exactly. So we have one of the oldest maps here eliminated and also one of the newest maps. Now from here, we end up going through the map ordering process to see exactly how this best of 5 is going to unfold.
Yeah, I really want to bring up the smaller maps here, I believe, that are going to be very aggressive maps. So, for example, Belcher Vestige, a smaller 2-player map here.
Right.
We could see a very explosive start, considering it's MMA's pick first.
Absolutely, and then Frost then taken next. Yeah. Now over here to Bomber. What map is he going to take here? If this is a 3-0, this will be the final map, so a critical map here in the center right now. Bomber is, wait for it.
So it was Bomber that picked first here. So Bomber picking first, Belcher Vestige is a smaller map,
right.
MMA larger, then back to Akalon Waste here. We're starting to see a strategic setup for these players. Belcher Vestige will be an aggressive map, which Bomber's picked. Frost is larger, it's a 4-player map.
Right, and Akalon you can turtle like crazy on. I mean, it really rewards defensive play. And play mech.
Yeah.
Derelict Watcher with that open center there. And finally, if we go to map number 5 here, it will be on Polar Night.
Yeah, I really want to bring up what Todd and In Control said earlier. MMA, I really believe, is going to be able to out-multitask his opponent the longer the game goes on. He's fast. He will drop. He will be all over the place. But Bomber is fast. He's critical. He's got those explosive strategies earlier on.
Well, our players will now go to their respective soundproof booths, and very shortly we will start our first best of 5 here at BlizzCon 2013. It is a real treat to be down here. I've been coming to BlizzCons for a long time, all the way back to StarCraft 1, and this is one of my favorite things to do ever. I love BlizzCon. It's crazy. It's not just StarCraft, it's not just esports, it's everything Blizzard. It's a real treat to be down here.
And this is my first BlizzCon tasteless, and it's going amazing so far. And what a treat this is to be able to commentate the world's best players.
So here we have MMA. Now, whenever I think of MMA, I always go back to 2 years ago with that incredible win that Artosis and I casted, where he was in front of, I mean, way bigger an audience than we had ever seen before, defeating, of all people, MVP. And I'm wondering, are we going to have a similar thing here today? Are we going to see MMA feed off of that, that good memory from 2 years ago, go through Bomber and go all the way to the top?
There were so many good memories that MMA will hold from 2011 and the early stages of 2012. He was arguably the best Terran player out there. He was nicknamed the Son of Boxer.
Yeah, I mean, a trained by Slayer's boxer himself. But, let's talk about Bomber for a second. Bomber was this guy, everybody was saying, this guy is probably just going to become the best Terran ever.
Yeah.
And he was so good that he would do things like nuke himself simply to embarrass his opponent. In a game, he would just drop a ridiculous amount of mules, knowing that, that'll put me behind, but I'm going to look like a boss if I win this. But, that can, of course, be a double-edged sword. And then we saw Bomber fall off a little bit about a year ago. Now he's back here today. And it does look like our countdown is almost about to begin here. Your predictions going into this Apollo?
I mean, like DJ Wheat brought up earlier, and I really think MMA is going to win this series. He's put so much hard work and effort into 2013 because towards the end of 2012, he was not the same player that won here at BlizzCon 2 years ago. But Bomber is such a talented player. So far, look at the win percentage against other Terran players. Incredible year against other Terrans.
When you look at Bomber, he's such a mechanical player. He wants to get into the mid game. He wants to get into the late game and the end game. And he's so good at just massing. I mean, he's like a machine. He's so good at just massing up this ridiculous army, pushing out, and slowly smothering his opponent. I feel like MMA coming into this is going to have a lot of good, not just build orders, but tactics in the early game before we really get into the developed mid game. I know at the expert desk we did talk a little bit about MMA liking a lot of Banshee openers. I think that would be a great way to go in this match.
Yeah, absolutely, to set the pace, because I believe here, on such a big stage, in such a big tournament, the first map is clearly the most important of the entire of this series.
Oh, I totally agree with you. That's going to set the tempo going into this. Now let's take a closer look at our first map. It is going to be Belshir Vestige. It's a 2-player map. I don't know if we're going to have proxies here or any kind of cheeses, but it is a possibility. There's always a higher probability that you're going to have an all-in or a cheese on a 2-player map because obviously you know the starting location of your opponent.
Yeah, and as the first point says, that's exactly what you said, but it's also predictable because of how often we see those
true,
strategies.
And this is a seasoned map, right? This is not one of our newest maps here, excuse me. So that's something to factor in as well. How exactly are they going to play here? Bomber has cheesed. He's definitely somebody who's capable of it. I wouldn't say he's got the best out there, but he is somebody, ideally wants to get into that late game. We'll see how they play on this. Of course, in a TVT on a map like this, getting to later expansions are going to be a little bit trickier. Those are a little bit closer to your opponent. Not as easy to outmaneuver another Terran army on this map. We may see that if they both opt to go bio, but generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, on Belshir Vestige, the earliest stages, whoever be's aggressive is taking a risk, because if it doesn't work, you lose that first map. But another thing that you said, the longer the game goes on, the more control you must have. The Zalnoga Tower is very important.
Right.
Spotting the army, seeing where they're moving.
It's so critical. And it does look like, we are about to get this game underway. Guys, we're here at BlizzCon 2013. Are you having fun? And the countdown has started. I am predicting Bomber's going to win this 3-2. You are going with MMA, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think this is going to be a 3-0 no matter what, which is really exciting. This is a great way to start off the tournament with a super close match like this one we have here. So head-to-head now, MMA against Bomber. Remember, this is not a tournament where we have groups. This is not a tournament where we have a loser's bracket. It is all down to this one moment. Over here in the bottom right, make some noise for MMA. And his opponent over here in the upper left in the blue. Give it up for Bomber.
A lot of Bomber fans here, a veteran in the American scene, back in the olden MLG days, playing in all those tournaments.
So, you know, TVT, let's talk about this just as a mirror matchup. There are so many different builds that still allow you to develop into late game with different army comps, different army compositions, which is really important to keep in mind. Now, with these two players here, you got Bomber and MMA, do you expect to see, and we could split this down into 3 basic parts. Are we going to see all bio, which is not as popular anymore? Are we going to see Marine Siege Tank? Or are we going to see some more mech here from these two on this map specifically?
On the more simple maps, bio tank. But if anyone's going to use mech today in one of these maps, it's going to be Bomber for sure.
Yeah, Bomber is so good at opening like that. We did have a gas first here for Bomber.
Both players going to be playing aggressive in this game. We talked about who wants to take that risk, who wants to go for that style on a small map like this. Both of them will.
It's going to be interesting to see then when we have a smaller unit sets here, nobody going for a fast expand, obviously, a small number of units, how they're going to control that. MMA, you know, when you were taught by somebody like Slayer's Boxer, and I know we do have a lot of new viewers here who are not familiar with, you know, 15 years of StarCraft history, but Slayer's Boxer was, for a period of time, the undisputed best StarCraft 1 player, and he was winning based off the tactics he used, based off how he controlled his army and how he outmaneuvered his opponent. So you got to think MMA learned a lot from someone like that going into this.
Absolutely, and we should be seeing both of these players aim towards Banshees in this game.
Yeah, I think so.
The one thing though, when you're both going Cloak Banshees, for example, you don't really have detection. So if either of them spots what's going on, for example, MMA is the player that's moving out on the map to scout, what happens if he changes to a Raven? What happens if he sets up defensively against an aggressive player here? He's already spotted the factory, he's seen the barracks, he knows that his opponent has gone for gas first, compared to Bomber, who's seen nothing. Exactly, and granted, he didn't even scout that gas first. He knows because of how early that structure is there. And also know Bomber, you know, not even interested in scouting here, actually, telling us right now that he is pretty much playing a well-rounded build, in his view at least, that can counter pretty much whatever his opponent's going to throw at him. Now, I don't know about you, I personally don't tend to play StarCraft like that. I always feel like I have to scout, but you know, Bomber's very good at this style of play, and this is how many of the Koreans opt to approach a lot of the matchups on a lot of these different maps. I'm exactly like you here. I would prefer in this position to be MMA. You know what's coming. If you know already what's coming here, then you can start to adapt to it. But Bomber, on the other hand, is looking to execute a well-orchestrated attack. Absolutely. It'll also depend on when they do move their armies out here. You know, this is one of these situations where you can have your small army suddenly get put in a bad spot. Let's say you just lose a handful of Marines. That's a lot early on here, despite how expendable Marines are overall in the long term. In a situation like this, absolutely, it could be dangerous. We do see now that Cloak is being researched here. Wow, look at this Bomber. This is very extraordinary. Yeah, I like this a lot. I think that he was originally planning to be aggressive, but upon his opponent scouting him, he was predicting that MMA would open up aggressive himself and most likely change over to playing a Raven style. Bomber's the one that's actually going for a Raven here, completely blind. He's actually, despite not scouting, this is pretty funny. You know what this tells me is that he is so confident he knows how MMA is going to play, that beyond it, not just scouting, and then just seeing that MMA brushed by with an SCV and spotted a few structures, he already is hard countering this Banshee. When the Raven comes out here, he's going to set up his Marines in such a way so that as the Banshee comes in, he can get right underneath it, gun it down. And this Banshee, I can't emphasize how much MMA has invested in capital, and this Banshee has to pay for itself and more if this strategy is going to be successful. So watch here as this Banshee approaches and see,
Can it do a lot of damage? Will it get shot down? Because that's going to change the course of this game.
I cannot explain how surprised MMA will be upon realizing that there's a Raven here.
Now he's kept the Raven back there, okay? He did not show the Raven, and that's very intentional. He wants to chisel off a few more HP on that Banshee and maybe bring that Banshee back in. Now we see the Banshee is southbound right now. So he's not even going to risk it looks like. A lot of other players would use that Banshee for a longer period of time, try to do more damage here and there. Now we have MMA pushing out, and that's probably why he wanted to keep the Banshee with that. He wanted to regroup and then push north.
He saw his opponent just very defensively up his ramp here, and he didn't want to lose it, and now he's got all his units together. A tank Banshee Marine push out here could really delay Bomber from taking his expansion fast.
Absolutely. We do have actually both players moving out here. There is a high chance of an engagement here in the middle. We have the command center now coming up here for Bomber. Bomber transitioning nicely into the early mid game here. And here is Bomber now. He wants to go for the watchtowers. He might not go for a full-on attack here. He may just want to try to get some map control here. Meanwhile, the Banshee is now going to slide into the upper left corner here. How much damage is this Banshee going to do versus how much damage is the potential counterattack here of Bomber?
Tasteless, MMA knows where his opponent's army is. This Banshee's with Cloak, there is no detection. The Raven's on the other side, there's no engineering bay, there's no turrets, there's a single scan here, but remember there's a second Banshee on the natural as well.
Okay, so two Banshees now gunning down workers very quickly, and it looks like that Banshee in the upper left is going to get back. Meanwhile, a push down here, but Siege Tank's ready. The Cloak Banshee still maneuvering around right now. Nowhere really that Bomber can mine from comfortably. He's now maneuvered down here over to the second. This should force a liftoff.
Yeah, this is a really peculiar situation right now. This Banshee is in there, both of them just doing so much damage. There are hardly any SCVs left here in Bomber's base.
I mean, Bomber's economy is completely stifled. And here's the problem. I don't see Bomber getting up onto the high ground there that MMA controls. The Banshees have now been cleaned up. They both took... Whoa, okay, quick GG there.
Bomber lost his Raven in that attack.
Yeah.
He lost all his SCVs. He had no detection.
We caught the tail end of that. We barely caught that Raven getting gunned down. Okay.
Wow.
Well, MMA played that well. We were saying that Bomber was hard countering MMA, but given the circumstances, Bomber moved out on the middle of the map, had the Raven been back along with the Marines defending the main base and the second base. This might have been a different story, but that's exactly as we talked about earlier what we needed to see here from MMA. The tactics early on, outmaneuvering his opponent, out-microing him. He's going into this strong. We're now going to go into game number 2 here. The map will be Frost.
That's right, and the most important map of this series here goes to MMA. And remember that was Bomber's map choice to start on Belshir Vestige.
Yeah.
And now we're going over to MMA's pick, Frost, a 4-player map, a larger map where he wants to play on.
Yeah, this map is very different from our previous one. We do have the players now joining in here. And once we have confirmation they are ready, we are going to get this underway. This is a fast-paced best of 5 here. Very unforgiving on these guys. Bomber's going to have to keep his cool. That's a frustrating loss he just faced back there.
Yeah, I mean, as you described earlier on, he didn't really scout too much. He had a plan in mind, and as we saw, it wasn't exactly how he thought it would go out.
All right, guys, we're here at BlizzCon 2013. Are you having fun here with MMA against Bomber? Here at the WCS Global Finals, the story is beginning. Over here in the upper right, make some noise for MMA. And his opponent down here in the bottom right. Make some noise for Bomber.
All right, well, Bomber now needs to not let nerves get to him coming into this second series. In a best of 5, when a player goes up 2-0, it is difficult to make the comeback to win 3 games in a row.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Do you think we're going to see MMA open up with a similar build here? I expect Bomber to not, by the way, before you answer that. I expect Bomber to go for the macro game here.
Yeah, on Frost here, it's a lot more difficult and risky to play aggressive on. So sometimes we do see players open up with even a command center first here.
Yeah, we do actually a lot. They're going to be hugging a lot of the right side of the map here. In certain circumstances, you can hide a base on the left side because a lot of times that does get neglected in situations like this. So you got to be very careful to scout the entire map the entire time. It's not one of these maps where you'll naturally pass by a lot of expansions. You really have to keep your eye out for everything.
And as we can see in the game, neither of the players have taken a gas or a barrack, so they are going to be expanding to a second location very, very early on here. And I really believe this is how MMA wanted this series to play out. He picked a bigger map. He wants to get to the mid-game. MMA made his name on being at the mid part of a game, using medivacs, harassing, dropping everywhere, and playing to his fast speed.
Yeah, it's so cool when you get a mirror matchup like this, but play styles that are just so radically different here. We do have MMA scouting that is similar to the last game. MMA does elect to scout. Bomber once again telling us that one extra SCV that he could use to scout around the map is so important simply for the additional minerals he can mine from at home.
And also he has the command center straight on the low ground. He's not just going half-heartedly here by putting it inside the main base. He's just straight down on the low ground.
Yeah, this is it's a bit gutsy. It's a bit greedy. He's saying I want to get as much income as humanly possible because I don't like the early game that much. I like, at the bare minimum, surviving the early game. Where I want to be is in the late game. I want to tech. I want to produce. I want to make that war machine that I'm going to crush my opponent with.
And both players have opted to take a gas as well. This is because neither of them know what each other's doing. And they want to take a gas because they do want to aim up towards the factory. The factory and starport tech is the best defensive tech because the units you get from these, Hellions, Vikings, Ravens, all very good defensively. If they were just left on barracks and Marines, that's not so good if someone was aggressive.
Yeah, you get great deflection with that unit comp there. Now here's the first scouting SCV coming out here, heading over to MMA's base. He is going to spot this bunker here. Now we'll see how much farther along he gets in here, and if he spots that. Okay, well the SCV being there alone is a bit of a tell, but when you get the players at this level, there are a lot of mind games, so he can't 100% confirm that there's going to be an expansion there. But the bunker is a tell. We have seen some, cheeses where you do put the bunker on the low ground, but you're actually teching to something else.
And likewise, MMA moves down and sees 3 Marines in a bunker being built. So even though they 100% haven't seen what each other are doing, they can guess that this is most likely what's happening here.
Absolutely. Now here comes a starport. And that will be swapped with the add-on over here from the barracks. Meanwhile, not really a different tech route at all here from our other Terran player. We have another SCV just backing up here. And this game should begin to normalize. This should be a point in time where I don't think either player is going to really hurt the other one. And the only circumstance I can imagine is, let's say that they were to move out on the map at a weird period of time, but I highly doubt that'll happen.
Well, Bomber's just scanned MMA and has seen that the factory has a tech lab. He doesn't know if it is a tank or Banshee being built. You actually can't tell at this point. It could be either. But Bomber, before he scanned, already made a decision to build a Widow Mine. Oh, actually, did he cancel it? Okay, he cancelled it.
Yeah.
He cancelled it there. He was looking to maybe go for Medivac and film some form of drop play here. But upon scanning, he decided not to go for that and is just going to continue on.
Now, we do have Cloak being researched here. And we'll see how much damage the Banshee can actually do. It's usually pretty predictable in these two starting locations where the Banshee is going to come in. And we do have now the Watchtower here being controlled right now by MMA. That's going to be very helpful here as he can try to move that out without being punished. Now the drop here from Bomber is heading up. Let's see, does he have the defense over here at the second? He has some Marines moving over here, but I'm pretty sure that should be able to unload and heal up before he can stop this.
Well, there is a Banshee there as well. It just depends on where the Banshee is when the Medivac comes across.
Yeah, the Banshee has to turn around immediately. So he boosts in there, unloads these Marines now, and the Banshee is doing some damage. He picks up, actually getting 7 Marines out now and returning. Now the hand has been tipped that the Banshee tech is underway, so now it's going to be his turn. A turret there because that's the most logical. I mean, if you're going to have a beeline for where the Banshee's going to go, it's going to go into that turret. So he now backs up. Let's see if he can maneuver around and do a little bit more damage.
Almost predictable gameplay here from MMA, going for a Banshee and Bomber with an engineering bay and turret and then the drop as well. I think he's set himself up really nicely here. He's got into the mineral mineral line, he's picked off an SCV or two, and this Banshee's going to have a very hard time doing damage. MMA behind this has gone for a third command center, which means his tech's incredibly late because he's not sure how much damage this Banshee can do.
Another drop over here, and it is deflected with ease right now. Both these guys having some pretty solid defense now. The humiliated medevac now returning back home here for Bomber.
Unfortunately for MMA, with this Banshee, which isn't doing any big damage here, and he realized that that may be an option, I mean, not really an option, but it may not do damage, he decides to go 3 command centers, which delays his tech a lot. He's playing very greedy, double engineering bay. There is absolutely an opportunity here for Bomber to put a lot of pressure on. He has stim, he has tanks, he has medivacs. Well, at least stim is almost done.
We're seeing this barracks explosion here. He's going to pick up again now. Now the question is, where will he go? He wants to avoid that Viking. He doesn't want to be seen there. We'll see, does a Viking spot that? Now with boost, those medevacs get there a little bit quicker. But then you got to ask, where is he going to drop over here?
Well, MMA realizes the threat. He's got tanks in each mineral line. He realizes this could be a possibility.
Okay, so this is going to be a double-edged sword here for Bomber. If Bomber comes in here and, let's say, loses these 2 medevacs and all the Marines in it and doesn't do the damage he needs to do, it could be disastrous. Here comes the drop now.
Oh, how much damage is he going to get done? There is a tank there, and these Marines do not have combat shield. They do not have stim either. And he does boost out there. Didn't really lose too much, though.
Yeah, he didn't lose too much. Unfortunately, he wasn't really able to punish his opponent in any way. The Banshee's now back in here. In fact, that's going to be depleted of any energy. So he's just going to go ahead and run that as far away as possible.
And here's a first-person shot from MMA right now, who's, you know, all over the place. He's macroing up. He's got his 3rd command center. But I really want to point out something very important in this game. There is no 3rd command center from Bomber. He has no intentions, Tasteless, of playing this a very long game. He knows his opponent has 3 command centers. He's going to try and end this game very fast.
Yeah, this is all going to come down to one big timing here. We'll see how effective that's actually going to be. A lot of this will be based off, for instance, the position of the siege tanks, okay? The arcing of the Marines. I mean, you know, out of almost all the things in StarCraft 2, when you get 2 Marine arcs, how they engage each other, you know, who has the better concave versus the concave, or convex rather, that's huge. The push now is coming out here from Bomber. MMA needs to survive this. He needs to defend this and not take too much damage on an economic level, or it's going to be disastrous.
He's got to be in a very good position here with his units. He doesn't quite have the same amount of units as Bomber does.
He's expanding as we speak, and this is going to put him in a pretty fragile position. The question is, how does Bomber execute, especially against somebody like MMA who's so good at his control?
1-1 is almost done from MMA. That's great, but there is no combat shields. Combat shields is massive in this. It really will be a difference between a win or a lose.
All right, he's now driving Bomber back, sieging up. Now, that's exactly what he wants to do, is just get him into siege mode. The siege tanks can't do any damage from there. Now, MMA sieging up his own siege tanks. Now, he's going to get in the line. Now, we do occasionally see impulse mass pickups here from the medevacs, so they take the entire army, and that's what we're going to have right now.
Bomber realizes that he's not going to break the front wall. He's going to drop in the main base. How well is MMA going to deal with this?
He needs to get up there now.
I don't think he's going to be there in time.
He might be able to pick up with his own medevacs and meet him there, sieging on the low ground. That's what he's going to do. Unloading now over here. Stimming and now moving forward.
Oh, no combat shields. These units are dying really fast.
Bomber with a really nice arc there. And he is over the production facility. So, for instance, that siege tank that just popped out, going to be taken out. He's going to get a little bit greedy, though. He's going to edge forward with his siege tank. All these medevacs healing up these Marines. Going into first person now for Bomber.
And Bomber, man, Bomber is all over the shop right now. He's inside this main base here, Tasteless. And this is going to be very difficult for MMA to deal.
Yeah, you know, MMA, the fact he's going to pick up here and an attack coming around here from behind at what is basically a naked third base.
Oh no, Bomber is moving forward here. MMA's in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have that many units to defend this.
And
he's going to drop on the tanks.
He's going to Marine dump on the tanks.
Oh, Tasteless.
I think MMA might be dismantled. I think we may be going into game 3 here if MMA can't stop this soon.
That's right, the third base has been broken. There are no further upgrades coming in for MMA. He's behind in supply, he's behind in economy now.
And you know what's also important to note is that there are all the medevacs from that initial drop survive. So he can now pick up and do this again. The 3rd command center goes down. Things looking very shaky for MMA with a 93 supply to 134.
Yeah, that was an incredible timing there from Bomber, taking a 30 supply lead in this game. and he's going to continue on. He'll build a third command center. He's getting his armory for further his upgrades. But one thing to note, though, despite MMA being pushed back, he does have 2-2 on the way. He will have combat shields on the way.
That's
true.
So
eventually, he will have a strong army again.
He will have, like, in a way, the
enough?
better units, yeah, but it's also a question of, you know, size mattering here. You could see a Bomber hungry to end this, but MMA is basically turtled up right now. He is not interested in letting his opponent get any closer here.
This is a very naked main base here for MMA. Bomber has a lot of units in these medivacs. If he's able to unload inside the main base again, I think that could be game over.
If he can loop around, yeah, I think you're totally right, Apollo. I think if he loops around, which he's doing right now, hitting the production facilities, I don't know if MMA can survive this.
Yeah, this is going to be very difficult for MMA to survive, and Bomber has played this out absolutely beautifully, and again, the SCVs are getting picked off. The production is falling.
Yep, he's going to get that starport again, which means no more medevacs again here. Medevac's playing a critical role right now. Another army regrouping down here on the low ground, picking up and leaving after doing the optimal amount of damage. Bomber is playing brilliantly.
And he's got his third command center up and running. He's got 59 Marines to 34. He's doubling his opponent's army supply at this point almost. Bomber, what a great game from him coming into this second map.
Backing up now. We do see there was one medevac out there for MMA. I think he's decided probably he shouldn't drop. He probably needs everything he can get. Oh no! Losing that medevac. It's too bad because I was actually headed back to help defend here. MMA going to try to shove Bomber out now. Pushing down again here. Can he get those siege tanks there at the bottom? He can get that medevac! And he does not, but he does get that one tank.
Yeah, nice save there by Bomber, getting those 2 tanks. And he now is mining successfully from a third base. All the numbers are in favor of Bomber here. 94 supply to 72. He's got more workies. He's going to have a better infrastructure the longer this game goes on. MMA, if he wants to be able to get back into this game, has to do something soon. Otherwise, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, and are we going to get this starport to get killed? It looks like no, it's not going to. It is getting repaired. Now, Bomber's got to be careful because for all the damage he's dealing, if he's not saving some of those units, he is starting to just slowly and surely get behind. Now, we do have Bomber secured with that third. I think it's almost Bomber's turn to start going into the defensive mode here and go to, you know, chapter 2 of late game here with a massive army. Probably as MMA tries to take his third base, and as I say that, he's trying to take his third base, so we might see that attack shortly here.
Yeah, we could see that command center picked off here if MMA's out of position.
And let's see, this would actually be a great drop here, just here on the high ground like this.
He doesn't see it.
He did not even, he did not react there. Let's see. Now he's landing. Will he go to the main? That could also hurt.
Yeah.
All the MMA siege tanks, by the way, guys, basically in the middle of the map. But the problem for Bomber is he doesn't quite know where the army is, so he's not sure. He could have dropped there in the main and probably done a lot more damage. Will he get the command center now? Command center getting low, half health, 1/3 health, and it's gone.
And MMA says, all right, you've got me. I've got one last push in me, but look, Bomber's ready. He's got so many Marines. And he says, you know what?
That's gonna be it. GG Bomber. He's still got this. 1-1. Turning this best of 5 now into a best of 3. I believe the third map was Akalon Wastes.
Yes, that's right. And that was Bomber's choice. Each one of these players now have won their opponent's map.
Isn't that funny?
That is
now,
funny,
you know,
Tasteless.
one thing about Akalon here is this is a map that really rewards the player that turtles, the player that's actually in the most defensive position. Your third base easy to secure, even your fourth base easy to secure, which is atypical for most StarCraft 2 maps. Usually the fourth is the one you really got to fight for.
Yeah. And I really think that we could see a complete change-up of style now from Bomber.
Sure.
This is a map that really, as you say, rewards defensive play. And if you're good defensively, then you can play mechanically. You can play with tanks, Vikings, Hellbats, and just play mech.
Yeah, and I was about to, you beat me to it. I was about to ask you, do you think we're going to see mech here from Bomber?
I think we could do.
All right, and what about for MMA? Because I don't feel MMA going mech here. I'm fine being wrong, but I don't feel him doing it. But Bomber definitely could give it a shot this time.
I've got you back, Tasteless. I agree with you here. I mean, we may see a classic Marine tank versus mech.
That would be a lot of fun. Are you guys ready for game number 3 here? Make some noise!
What a great start to BlizzCon here.
Absolutely. Introducing our players now. over here in the upper left, in the red, make some noise for MMA. His opponent winning that last game with brilliant endgame macro. Give it up for Bomber.
Bomber's had a very successful year when it comes to playing Terran versus Terran. In series played, best of 3 and best of 5 above, he's actually undefeated in the WCS system.
Yeah, he is an absolute beast, and that's a real problem here for MMA, who I would say is very well-rounded, but just has to go through the guy who's unstoppable in this matchup before he's going to move on.
I mean, there's really two ways to look at this. I mean, you had the opportunity to cast Bomber in the Terran group in WCS Season 2 with Flash, Innovation, Byung, and he came out on top.
I know, I was so surprised by that. I think it was the real, out of all the days I've seen a Bomber, that was like his day. This was like his moment to take StarCraft 2 over. Now the question is, let's say he does beat MMA, how far can he go?
Yeah, I know that I was speaking to Team Ace earlier. MMA's been practicing really hard with Innovation to help improve his Terran versus Terran, so MMA would have naturally improved himself as well.
Well, you know, you can't really get better than Innovation.
Yeah.
That guy's pretty good. By the way, so far, mirrored builds here for both these players.
Yep, gas first again, exactly like Belshir Vestige. We're going to be seeing two aggressive openers. This doesn't really tell us if we are going to see Marine tank from both players or Met from both players. It can still deviate in the later stages after this opening.
Well, the barracks are going to finish, so just to echo what you said, Apollo, yeah, we got to wait just to see exactly what they have in store. But obviously, it's not going to be some quick expand. There's not going to be a ton of passivity once we get into that in-between point of early game and middle game.
Yeah, I mean, that is what we're going to see here. In just a regular Terran versus Terran, if we didn't know who the players were, we didn't know what the stage was, this looks like both players are going for Cloak Banshees once again. A very standard opening, but there are mind games. Both the players prepared for each other. They've known each other. We're going to face off for a very long time here. They know each other's styles.
Yeah, you know, that's actually a really good point, is out of all the matchups you have, this phase of the tournament, you absolutely had the most preparation for, right?
Yeah.
Because upsets are going to occur as you get later on in the bracket. Then you might be thinking, what? Am I playing this guy? I totally thought deeper in the bracket I'd face somebody else. So that's something to factor in as well. Now we have the factory and the starport being parked next to each other, which obviously the starport will be swapped with the factory tech lab add-on. And from there, that's really when we get to see what is the plan going into this.
Yeah, Bomber decided to take a later second gas here, so he's not going to be able to afford a Banshee and Cloak at the exact same time here. So he may decide to go over towards a single Banshee without Cloak, and then expand it a little bit faster than his opponent. That is one of the options he can go for here.
Sure.
But MMA has dedicated to gas. He's got too early, and he should be looking, unless we see just a Raven build, which is a little bit weird. It should be Cloak.
Yeah, okay, and there it is, Cloak. Now on the way, the Banshee coming out here for both players. But we do not have that Cloak there from Bomber.
Yeah, no Cloak, and he's got the reactor on the factory here. So we will be looking to go over for Hellions for the time being after this.
All right, and we have a Widow Mine here from MMA, which he's going to bring out. Now, I'm wondering, you know, you can catch a Banshee or a Medevac or anything else flying in there.
Yeah.
If you can guess the right spot they're going to fly in, you can instantly get a huge lead by catching that with a Widow Mine.
I mean, when a Widow Mine is borrowed, it's going to require scans. And if MMA is also going for Cloak Banshees, how many scans does Bomber really have to defend both?
Exactly. How much scan is it even really worth it then? Because obviously, if you're scanning, you're not landing mules, and then even if you're getting ahead in intel, you're getting behind in you know, your economy.
Oh, this Banshee in the center of the map here will pass the Widow Mine.
Okay, he spotted the Widow Mine.
Oh, well,
that Widow Mine is taken out. Nice play there. Now we have MMA and the Bomber, the Banshees high-fiving past each other here. Now let's see how much damage each of these Banshees can do. This is a tricky part in the early game here of TVT because you're attacking and defending at the same time, which requires a lot of multitasking.
That's right, and Bomber has a scan available. Likewise does MMA.
Now this is a good choice here to get this SCV making the command center. He'll now go up towards the main here. Now, he wants to make sure that Banshee, when he scans, can't get out.
Oh, nice move there. Over the command center so the Marines don't get close enough.
The Raven now coming up here. Now, that Banshee can still kite these Marines, and that's exactly what he's doing. Now throwing down an auto turret. Now that was not quite a success. He probably would have wanted to kill the Banshee at least there. But the Banshee is now, is he gonna get away?
MMA.
2 HP.
And he gets a couple of SCVs and quite a lot of Marines with that. That was a successful Banshee.
A frustrating moment here is with just that Raven, he can't actually go over there and do the damage he wants to do. The Banshee can now return home and get repaired.
And as you can see, Bomber's Banshee's really not going to do anything there. He was focusing very heavily on defending, and MMA won that fight. He was the faster player. He dealt the damage and defended at the same time compared to Bomber, who tried to do both but didn't really defend that well.
All right, now he's spotted this Banshee over here. This Banshee will not be able to get away here. So that is one good thing going for him. MMA now bringing that injured Banshee back. And it looks like now Bomber is going to end up getting that second base a little bit later here than MMA. But MMA did not even start his gases yet, that expansion. And the SCVs are only just now getting there. So it's not too much of a deficit, really.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the success of the Banshees, I'd favor MMA. But he also did dedicate to Cloak, where his opponent didn't.
Right.
So overall, it does balance itself out.
So things are starting to calm down a little bit here, as they are going to start to do what we would call powering here in StarCraft 2, just getting more and more structures to crank out more and more units. This map is going to be interesting for these two. It looks like we're probably going to transition into just Marine Siege Tank right now. From there, it's going to be a lot about positioning. This is going to be like a really fast-paced chess game. You know, if you get in one bad spot, you're going to lose.
Yeah, in such a defensive map here, as long as you've got your turrets in position to defend against drops, you should be seeing it, as you described, become a positionally based game. Tanks, Marines moving around, lots of scans, identifying where your opponent's army is. And this one could actually be a very long game here.
Now, another question to kind of go off this whole situation that these two players are going to be in here is the question, when do I move out and actually try to secure those important positions on the map? Because if you do it too soon and do it in the wrong spot, boom, you're done. But let's say that you're too conservative and you wait too long, and by the time you opt to move out on the map, nobody's there. By the way, that Banshee getting deflected. Then you're in trouble as well.
Yeah, that's the balance, and that's where success really lies. Because if you move out with an army really very early, what happens if you get dropped at the same time? You don't have your army there anymore.
Exactly. So this is going to be a really tricky here, especially for this game being game number 3, meaning the winner is only going to have to win one more game after this. You know, the pressure is really on. Now we have this army moving out here. Are these Vikings going to catch this Banshee? They do, nicely done. And it does look like Bombers so far are going to be the first to try to move out on the map here. Not with his whole ground army, but just with some of that air army. MMA coming in here now, hitting some SCVs.
Yeah, that's the same Banshee from earlier on in this game. And it's come back to haunt Bomber a little bit and has found a sweet spot here where there's no turret.
15 kills on that Banshee so far. Taking out more and more SCVs. Bomber not quite driving this out as fast as I would have expected. And you could see he's just continuing to move around here. It looks like Bomber wanted to catch potentially some drops or something like this Viking Banshee rather, outside of his base.
This Banshee.
I can't believe how much damage this Banshee's doing. This is actually weird. 22 kills now.
22 kills. It got 11 SCVs throughout this game, and that Banshee has really paid for itself. And in the supply at the top of the screen, even though this game looks very even, it is even, but MMA definitely has a bit of an edge. Not a big one, but a bit of an edge.
I was really surprised that Banshee did that much damage in that last attack there. It looked like something that should have been driven out easily, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, 22 kills on it. Okay, so Bomber saying, well, I've suffered some losses here. I will be the first to initiate the map control, but I believe we do have a drop.
Tasteless, this could be a really big move for this game.
Okay, this is going to be tough, man, because if the drop hits here and there's not enough to defend, he's going to take out the production facilities. At the same time, if MMA's entrance is not guarded here well enough, Bomber kicks in the front door and could win that way as well.
Oh my God, there's 2 tanks for MMA a little bit out of position. I think he realizes the Bomber's coming.
God. Moving in here now, stimming up and sieging up.
Oh, that's a beautiful position for Bomber, really beautiful, but there is the drops on the same side on the other. They need to do a lot of damage down here.
All right, throwing down these auto turrets to soak up some damage. Meanwhile, the drop from MMA a bit too late as the command center over here on the left going to go down. Repairing, he needs to keep the CC alive.
Oh, the CC will stay alive for now. This drop has landed though. Combat shields is a difference between these two players, but there's almost the same Marine count here for Bomber.
Yeah, the drop is just too small. In fact, he can just bring his workers here. I think Bomber may have won this game. I mean, I can't imagine Bomber letting MMA out of this caged position here.
This is so unfortunate, I feel, for MMA. One single Marine spotting this army moving across the map. He could have dealt with it, but it's too late. There's too many tanks. There's too many Marines.
All right, throwing down a few turrets here, but GG.
Oh,
nicely
MMA.
done there by Bomber.
That's going to sting MMA. That's really going to sting.
Yeah,
Because
he just didn't. He was not in the position. It wasn't good. Tell you what, let's go ahead and throw it over to Marcus and see what people at the expert desk are thinking about this series so far.
Thank you, Tasteless and Apollo. We're now just going into Game 4 here in just a moment. And MMA started off with, you know, a declaration like, hey, I'm here at the Global Finals and I'm ready to play. And Bomber like promptly exit out of that game. Then Bomber come back 2 and 3, now sitting at 2-1. But let's hear from you guys. What do you think so far in our first 3 maps here at BlizzCon?
Game 1, Todd, after that first game, he leans in and goes, "What do you think now?"
Yes,
and I kind of just smiled at him and gave him a little wink. And then I waited until Game 2 and 3. And now that we have the entire stream watching us, Marcus, what do you think?
What do you
I think
think?
my prediction for this match was, well, I was going to say spot on. Maybe not score-wise just yet, but as far as what would happen, I knew that Bomber was going to go for timings and MMA was going to try to macro and do drops.
Right.
In the first game, he was able to win with the first attack, basically the first big attack. And in the second game, Bomber went for one of those timings that I was talking about that can be very dangerous if you're MMA and you like to take it to the very late game and just do small skirmishes, small fights until finally you take a big one that decides the game. Bomber does not want to go for those. In that game, we're actually...
In Game 2?
In Game 2, we're going to be taking a look exactly at the way it went. If we can jump into the game.
Okay, we'll jump in just a second as soon as we have the ability to.
We have that technology.
Let's beam us in, Jeff.
You know, further analysis, kind of the big picture of this best of 5. This is a tough match for MMA because I feel like that game number 1, it shows that aggression of MMA is really awesome. The double Banshee coming in at exactly the right time. I mean, we all looked at Bomber leaving. We're like, that's kind of abrupt, but he actually had like 9 SCVs left, and MMA was like, hey, yeah, you can sit at the base of my natural, but I'm not losing any SCVs. I'll make a 3rd CC. Eventually, I'll break out and have a better economy. But Bomber went back to the drawing board and said, okay, this guy's being very aggressive. I know that about him, but now I'm seeing what type he's favoring. And then in Game 3, we see that double Banshee. We see double drops. We see these tactics that MMA has used to get here being felt out. And I mean, Bomber hasn't scouted. He didn't see those things coming, but he was in place to counter it, went back to his macro play, stormed up the ramp, and won the game. And that's pretty indicative of how I felt this entire series was always going to go.
All right. Todd, do we have our game up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we go into the game and I'm going to...
Oh, there you are.
I'm going to try to see exactly where those players are at right now. The most important...
Can you actually, before we go much further, can you hide the player colors for me real quick, please? I prefer to not know which color they are that way. It's a joke.
It was a joke.
Go ahead, Todd.
All right. Bomber is on 82 army supply against 64. He's on a lot less walkers, 10 walkers less. So he's going to want to do damage now. He's going for this huge timing on 12 minutes. By the way, he has a lot of supply for 12 minutes. This guy definitely can macro. And now he's going to move in a position where he can attack and do damage, but it's very tricky to attack into tanks. So he's basically going to try to exploit the fact that MMA cannot see this corner here. And he's going to use this small area to get in position. The problem is those 2 Marines, they go in there first to see where the army is. And they're kind of going to spoil the attack. He basically reveals that he's headed for this. And then from there, MMA has the information that he wants to have. He knows that his opponent is about to attack. In the meantime, he's sending in his Banshee. He saw that there was no 3rd over there, but he wasn't able to see this position. So he's not sure. Now, MMA, he sees this entire army with the Marine he had here, and he sees that this is a pretty big army, so he's going to get in a position to basically fight. As soon as the scan expires, some of those medivacs get filled up, and they head for MMA space. And at this point, MMA, he sees those dots over here. He's like, oh boy, I know this is coming, but how do I get up there quickly enough to be able to defend it? So he's going to try to take a position over there with just 1 tank and lots of Marines. Those Marines, they cannot shoot. He picks them up, he drops them in the main, but this is already too late. This is going to do a ton of damage at this point. This is such a hard army to get rid of as MMA. You're never going to trade cost effectively against tanks already sieged. So he starts falling quite far behind. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit more so that you guys can see how important this was. He loses his starport, which is huge. You need medivacs. He has only 3. They don't have that much energy, so he ends up having to siege over there. His factory is going to take some damage as well. In the meantime, this is the reproduction.
Yeah, that's insane.
Opens up that counterattack so nicely.
And I mean, he just follows up with the great drop over here, and MMA just starts falling way too far behind in supply. And from there, Bomber secures himself the win in the second game, and he gains the momentum to come back in the series and goes on to win the next map. So this was, for me, the most important moment in this series so far.
And it's an interesting one, too, for me, because, you know, in TVT, you want to be out on the map because we saw how powerful that tactic is, where it's like, okay, I'm going to push your third. Okay, you've got tanks there. Well, if you don't have tower, if you don't see my army, load up Doom Drop. And we've seen this over and over again from players, again, like Tasia is really famous for this as well. But it's not like that's an invincible all-good move, because if you're out on the map, we saw in Game 3 that 2 medevac counterattack, he was just a little bit hesitant about it. He took the long route around. He knew he had the tower, so it hit too late. But if that hits while the whole army's mid-map, there's no tank being produced, 16 Stim Marines inside the production line, sayonara, that can be game-ending. and I feel like that's the kind of the beauty of TVT, where you hang in that balance. But Bomber's been making all the right calls so far.
All right, guys, great thoughts here. We're ready to go back into game number 4. Bomber versus MMA continues. We're going to send it on over to Apollo and Tasteless.
All right, guys, it looks like it's time to start game number 4 here. The map is going to be Derelict Watcher.
Now, Derelict Watcher is a really large open center map. That's actually very important for this game.
Yeah, the Marine tank engagements, if the game goes in that direction, it's going to be critical that in the course of just a few seconds, you are going to be in the winning position, because, you know, Marines, they deal damage so fast, but they die so quickly that things snowball. I mean, literally in just a few seconds. Our map is now loading up, and we're going to go ahead and intro our 2 players here. This is the WCS Global Finals. Our first best of 5 here, a Terran versus Terran between these 2 titans, MMA and Bomber, on the map Derelict Watcher. In the upper right, in the red, the terrifying late game Terran. He is Bomber. I almost did the GSL intro there. I was waiting for the voice to come up. All right. Down here in the bottom left, make some noise for MMA.
Tasteless, my friends.
Yes.
I was going to ask you a question whether MMA would be nervous to play this next game, but look on the map. Look at what's moving across to the other side very early on here.
Oh, noes. What's that SCV up to? Oh.
This is an 8 barracks.
Yep.
An 8 refinery, I imagine, would come right behind this. And we are going to see a very early play here from MMA.
Yep. MMA going for aggression here. Now, there's a lot on the line right now. If this doesn't work out, I mean, that's going to be a tough plane trip home.
We may have a command center first coming out from Bomber
right
now.
Oh my God, that
against a proxy barracks.
This could be disastrous here. MMA, you know, he learned from the best of the best, Slayer's Boxer, and it looks like he brought perhaps the right build order to, at the bare minimum, bring us to game number 5. Look at the minerals piling up here for Bomber.
Wow.
That can only tell us one thing.
He will be expanding again very, very early on. Before Bomber's barracks even begins, there is a Reaper on the way.
A Reaper has started. And you got to think, with somebody who's got the control like MMA, will that Reaper ever die? Oh my God!
This will not be spotted.
Barely grazing by that.
And this is almost an automatic loss here. This is going to be very, very, very difficult for Bomber to hold on.
Yeah, this is about to be rock beating scissors here as far as build orders go. And unfortunately, he did not scout that in time. And, you know, seconds matter here, guys. I know that the Reapers are going to get there almost right now anyways, but every second counts. Now here comes the Reaper. He can gun down the SCV, making the barracks, as well as the one making the command center. The SCVs are coming out, but the Reaper is just going to be too fast. Now, will MMA choke? Will he make some kind of mistake? He has to keep this Reaper alive.
If that Reaper got surrounded by slow SCVs, he completely messes this up. The barracks will complete, and Marine is on the way, but there's already another Reaper coming. MMA has chosen smartly here on what he was expecting his opponent to do.
And think about this. I mean, the repercussions for this. Can he even go for command center first in the next game, knowing MMA is capable of doing a rush like this?
Oh, and MMA is absolutely nailing this. The SCVs can't do anything here.
I think it's too much, Apollo. I don't know if he can stop these Reapers. Right now, Bomber microing his heart out right now. Can he get a surround?
He should just go back, wait for the third Reaper, heal up a little bit.
Yeah, regen.
And this is very difficult for Bomber to deal with. He's not mining anything right now. He has one mule.
We're going to have that third Reaper hop up here right now. And he is pushing with a bunker here. I don't know if this is going to be too effective because I don't know if he's going to have the minerals to make more Marines and bunkers, and that's going to be it. GG. MMA took a gamble, and it paid off.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about this gamble, is that Bomber was like, no, you are going to play safe. I know this means a lot to you. You will not do something to risk your tournament life on the line here. But MMA does the complete opposite to what Bomber was thinking would happen, and he's able to pick up a very easy victory.
Yeah, MMA, he brought it to game number 5. The question is, can he win there? Otherwise, Bomber is going to move on right now. Now, Bomber has to be a bit miffed about that last game. Probably confident that MMA would never win in a late game scenario. MMA, though, adroitly takes the situation and says, you'll never get to that end game scenario when you're against me, Bomber. Now, the question is, how do they play from here?
I don't know how they're going to play from here. I think that we could see 2 aggressive openings, we could see 2 defensive ones. It's really going to come down to how are they feeling personally on how this is going down.
They might end up changing build orders from what they planned here.
Absolutely.
There's a lot, and there's not a lot of time to think about. I mean,
that's the beautiful thing about StarCraft. You make these decisions just like that. In that couple of minutes break, MMA was like, all right, I have the balls to do this, Tasteless.
Yes, and it paid off, too. By the way, our map is going to be Polar Night. Now, Polar Night here, this is a kind of funky map here. We could have a lot of different ways these guys actually open up on this.
Yeah, I mean, usually I don't think we can look at tendencies for this map anymore.
Yeah, I got to agree.
5.
I got to agree with you. And there is flexibility for different stuff on this map, too, so expect anything. The world is now watching, and by tomorrow evening, we will have crowned the greatest StarCraft 2 player in the entire world here for the year 2013. And now the game has loaded up. If you're just now joining us, this is game number 5 here. One player moves on, the other one, well, his story stops here. Down here in the south, in the red with that sick all-in, he is MMA. His opponent cheesed out in that last game, but a macro god. How will he play this time around? He is Startail Bomber.
Who will be the first player to move into the quarterfinals here at BlizzCon, at the global finals? Which one of these
so much on the line here. I mean, it's close to the end of the year. This is the tournament to watch. And for it to end here, that's a tough, long plane ride home back to Korea for one of these 2 guys. Thinking about, should I have not been too greedy here? Should I have maybe cheesed here? Maybe I shouldn't have pushed out in this way.
Well, we have the decision from MMA on how he wants to play this game. He's decided to take a gas first here. Likewise has Bomber, just a few seconds slower than his opponent, but both players have decided to start to bring in gas nice and early.
Yeah, going for builds that were pretty similar to what we saw in the early part of this best of 5 now. Now, again, when you open up like, when both players open up like this, the early game is a bit fragile.
Very fragile, yeah.
You make the wrong decision somewhere, or you just are not quite on top of, let's say, that Banshee or something, or that Widow Mine, and you lose it, you're in a bad spot because you can get a pretty big lead if you win in an engagement early on and even just get the second base, because the additional minerals from that second base allow you to get that third up so easily.
And if it comes down to a battle of speed here and who can control their units at the same time while defending and just basically having a higher multitasking ability, then I really think MMA was to win if it's identical.
Well, MMA, you had to probably breathe a sigh of relief there from that last strategy. It's interesting. I wonder if, had MMA done, a different strategy back there and won, would Bomber be going for command center first here?
Very possible.
I mean, I'm under the impression he might have wanted to go for a quicker CC, but because of the way the MMA is now approaching this, he's a bit concerned. I don't want to go out like this. I might be one of the best late game Terrans of all time, but if am I going to let some guy punish me and stop me from doing that? That's a problem. Now let's talk about the map for just a little bit here. This is a map that has a very big main area, so a lot of drops,
Yes.
a lot of Banshee harass is very scary. And speaking of which, to segue nicely into this, is the starport, which has been proxied here.
That's right, and we have Hellions and Marines being constructed at home. There isn't enough gas here for Bomber to go all the way up to Banshees here, I don't think, especially because he'd have to build a tech lab on the starport,
Right.
compared to if the factory built it for the starport.
You know, Apollo, it seems to me Bomber wants to beat MMA at his own game here.
Yeah, he's going to drop inside the main base with Hellions and Marines, a difficult combination to deal with.
Let's see where this SCV is going, the one that's leaving here for MMA. Okay,
He's not checking.
He's not going to check. So this starport here is going to go untouched, and this
But
is okay.
he may see these units though, Tasteless.
Now he sees the Marines. That's a bit suspect, but it's not a tell. Okay.
Yeah,
He may have a hunch, but then again, it is a one-on-one map, and you can do proxy strats like this specifically on this map.
I think will MMA pick up on this? Because first of all, if this, remember, neither of them are scouted. These Marines are meant to be defending at home against a possible Banshee, but why are they on the other side of the map here? MMA is building a Widowmine here. He's going for Cloak.
Okay.
He's moving around inside his main base here, but does he realize what's going on?
That's the big question. Is the Army going to leave the base here? Is he going to be in a good position? Boosted medevac here, coming in now, undetected.
This Banshee will help out, but how much here? MMA still does not know about this.
All right, the Hellions are coming out here. The angle for the Marines, not good right now for MMA.
Oh, the SCVs are coming offline. There was a Widowmine, but it's just outside of range. The Banshee comes in to help and save the day here, potentially.
A Bomber completely and totally bungled this attack right now. Now the last thing he wants to do is lose that medevac, but before I can even finish my sentence, it's taken out. And that is a lot lost there for Bomber. MMA now has that Banshee is making a beeline right now to Bomber's base, hungry to wipe out those workers.
But there's already a Viking intercepting it. Cloak isn't ready yet. It's got another 10 seconds. Will this Banshee survive?
He needs to run. It's in the red. He's getting lower.
Oh, Bomber deflects it. He deflects it.
Unbelievable. Bomber now is recouped due to shutting down that Banshee. Now, don't forget, this is a proxied starport, so MMA can opt to punish that by going out and confronting that starport and pushing it out, which is going to mess up the medevacs, the Vikings, the Banshees, everything that he would want to have in this phase of the game.
And unfortunately, there's been another Banshee being invested into. It doesn't look like it's going to do a lot of damage. It's already running out of energy.
12, 10, getting lower now. The Viking is stalking it right now. And it's now down to what, 2 and what? Oh.
Yeah, and now it's going to just be tracked all the way. And MMA has 2 Banshees that have done nothing in this game compared to Bomber, who with a couple of units did deal out damage here. Look at the SCV difference between the both of them. 19-20 right now for MMA versus 29.
And this is very early in the game. I mean, to have a supply difference like this is quite alarming. So now it looks like, you know, mind you, by the way, that Widowmine was spotted by that Banshee before it was moved out, but map control here is going to Bomber for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely going to Bomber here. I mean, neither of them have started a command center until just now. Bomber's decided to do that. He's at an advantage in almost every angle in this game, just due to the openings.
Yeah, as well as how he's been able to cut off, for instance, those Banshees coming out. Really nicely played here. Now let's see if MMA can kind of recoup from this situation right now. If you look at the mini map, there's a lot of little blue dots everywhere. Checking around here, especially at the watchtowers. You got that starport who has not been contested yet. The Viking out there to deny, let's say, a drop, and these Hellions, excuse me, over here on the watchtower. So I mean, real map control here for Bomber, and he is not taking any risks. I mean, he is playing so conservatively right now.
I mean, right now, MMA does not know how Bomber is playing this game. He has not scouted, he has not scanned, but he's got a lot of units and not a second command center. The biggest problem right now is that MMA is pushing out. Without a second command center, he will not survive very long in this game.
Right.
Bomber has defensive tanks already at home. Unless he's caught out of position on his natural, MMA is going to have a very hard time breaking Bomber.
Now he's moving out here with his army. Yeah, MMA has to do damage now. I mean, the sand is running out of the hourglass right now. This is some scary stuff here.
And without a medivac, he has no way to elevate inside the main base. There's no way for him to siege up outside and bring units into the main base. The attack will only be put onto the natural. If Bomber just has a siege tank line here, but the one advantage, Tasteless, in tanks versus tanks, maybe the Vikings that MMA has can give him an edge when it comes to vision range.
That's absolutely true, Apollo. And we have that engagement coming up here now. MMA needs to break through the siege tank fire now, raining down on MMA's tanks. The Marines now pushing up. And one Widowmine coming up here. I don't think this is enough as MMA's army is being decimated.
Bomber crushes this attack. MMA put everything into this with no command center. It's nothing. Bomber goes into the quarterfinals here, Tasteless.
Bomber playing absolutely brilliantly, winning that series 3-2. DJ Wheat, take it away.
Thank you, Tasteless. Bomber takes it in the first series in the round of 16. A 2-3 in favor of Bomber. And, you know, I do want to say, there were several that predicted MMA. Obviously, Todd, Apollo as well. And the fact that it did go 3-2, that was certainly not unwarranted. But it is Bomber who advances on to the round of 8. Gentleman Jeff, start with you.
Well, a great series. Nice way to start off BlizzCon. I mean, TVT is not the one that gets everyone's blood flowing super fast. They're not like, oh, yes, TVT. But Bomber MMA, they put on a show. I always appreciate when I watch a series like this that people play to this series. The Proxy Reaper, brilliant opening. I'm a little bit disappointed that that wasn't scouted out quite as ferociously by Bomber. I mean, again, I feel like MMA has put it out there pretty hard. He's like, hey, I'm really aggressive. I'm totally okay with proxy stuff. I'm okay with the, going crazy. And Bomber opted to no scout and then minimal scout. And it bit him in the butt a couple of times. But MMA does go down here, 2-3, like you said. It was a lot closer. Todd was even saying like he was getting ready to be like, hey, how about that MMA? And honestly, he came down to game 5. He could have won that. I mean, the one thing I'd be critical here as well is I feel like MMA was once again opting for the Banshee build. I think that's 3 out of the 5 maps. I don't know if I would do that. It seems like Bomber's the guy that's going to start to respond to that kind of thing, and he did.
Well, let's, I mean, any general comments, Todd? I definitely want to talk a little bit about Game 5, but any general comments?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jeff here. The Banshee build was very predictable on this map, it felt like, and Bomber, he opted to open with a build with which he would have been safe against the same kind of proxy that he faced in 4th game if he had been against it. And, well, actually, there is a moment in the game that I would like to take a look at if we're ready.
Is this in Game 5?
Yes. When Bomber went for the drop, he was able to do a lot of damage with one very nice move with his medivac.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was the turning, well, I guess the turning point because it was very important, but it's just one of those things that is really hard to understand well enough unless you pay very close attention to it.
This is where he recouped his advantage.
Okay, I agree. All right, let's check this out. This is talking a little bit about Game 5 here. Todd's going to take us through what he believes is the turning point of the game. Certainly one of the things that was impressive to me in Game 5 was just the vision. I think you pointed that out too.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty remarkable by Bomber.
He kept producing the Vikings, then he did this really nice thing where he said, okay, I've killed a lot of SCVs. I probably have a pretty good supply advantage here. One of the only ways I could then lose that supply advantage at this stage of the game would be for 8 Marines to pop up in the back of my base, or that Banshee that has been, as Todd said, very predictable throughout the series. But when he fanned out his Vikings like that, controlled the towers, even put a Widowmine in a very predictive spot. It was pretty bold, as opposed to a safer spot like inside the base. Bomber played that beautifully, catching the Banshee before it had cloak. I mean, that looks like a huge mistake, and everyone in the audience is, that's an MMA fan is like, oh no. But honestly, tip of the hat more to Bomber, in my opinion, than a mistake to MMA, because I feel like he got that sense, and that's Bomber. He's a champion.
And usually Bomber is on the other hand of this kind of attack. He's the one doing the aggression. So I feel like it's made him maybe more comfortable than MMA was earlier to hold it, because he knew the way it has to go for this kind of attack to work. So he was basically completely ready for it, and he held, and from there you just cannot lose.
Well, let's update on something too. We had
actually, hold on, I got to cut you short because we've got the winner interview up on the stage. We've got Chobra joining us here to talk to our first winner advancing on to the round of 8. It is Bomber.
Thanks a lot, Marcus. And here we have our first quarterfinalist of the WCS Global Finals at BlizzCon 2013. It's Startail Bomber. Give him another big round of applause for taking the first match victory here in Anaheim. So of course, it's still going to be a long journey this weekend if Bomber wants to go all the way to that finals and win. But we want to see what he has to say about winning his first match against MMA. 저희 첫 경기 승리하신 거 축하드리고요. 일단 MMA 선수 상대로 3대2로 그래도 좀 어떻게 보면 어렵게 이기셨는데 소감 한 말씀만 해주세요.
일단 제가 태태전에 굉장히 자신이 있었는데 이렇게 3대2로 어렵게 이길 줄은 미처 예상을 못했고 4경기를 전진사신을 당하면서 조금 심리적으로 말려서 좀 힘든 경기가 됐어요.
Of course, Bomber talking about his confidence in TVTs. He never expected to have to go through a hard 3-2 to beat out MMA here in Anaheim. And in that game 4, with that proxy bunker, with the Reaper jumping up onto his base, he was caught off a little, but he ended up regathering his confidence and bringing the win here for Startail. So I want to talk about that game 4, because when we've seen plenty of players get dismantled mentally by such an attack. 자, 그럼 방금 말씀하신 대로 그 전진 사신 공격에 조금 당황하셨을 것 같은데 바로 지지 치시고 그러면 5번째 게임은 어떤 마음가짐 준비를 하셨나요?
4경기 때 전진사신을 했기 때문에 5경기 때도 똑같은 비슷한 올인 전략을 쓰지 않을 거라 생각하고 올인은 아예 배제하고 시작해서 그다지 4경기는 신경을 쓰지 않았어요.
Bomber saying, you know, after that Reaper rush, I knew that he wouldn't go for another all-in. I was very confident. I just wrote all all-ins off in Game 5 and played it like I normally would, and it just brought the victory home for me myself. Let's also talk about Game 2. Of course, Todd looked at that replay earlier, highlighting how Bomber, immediately after the scan, turns his units around for a very confident drop attack into MMA's base. And I want to see what was going through Bomber's head during that time. 그러면 저희 둘째 경기에서는 그때 앞마당으로 공격을 하시려고 준비 다 하셨는데 딱 스캔 하시고선 바로 그냥 정말 멈칫하시지도 않고 돌려가지고 공격을 하셨어요. 드롭을 하시면서 그때 그게 자신감이 있으셔서 공격을 하신 거예요? 아니면 일단 앞마당 공격은 실패할 것 같으니까 그냥 눈 꼭 감고 공격하신 건가요?
저는 일단 태태전에서 똑같이 더블일 경우에 비슷하게 시작하면은 안 진다는 마인드를 가지고 있기 때문에 정말 자신감 있게 한 거예요.
And Bomber just exudes confidence every time I talk to him after a TVT. He says, you know, in a TVT, if I know I'm in similar standings with my opponent, I always know I'm going to win. I never think I'm ever going to lose those matches. So after I saw that scan, I just said, all right, I'll just take a different road and I'll win this battle. And of course, we know how that one played out. Now, when we looked at Bomber's story coming into this WCS Global Finals, he talked about Soulkey perhaps being the strongest opponent he may have to face. And it's already looking like it might happen. So let's see what he has to say. 자, 그러면 이제 8강에 올라가셔서 지난번에 인터뷰 하셨을 때는 김민철 선수를 만약에 만나게 되면 제일 어려운 상대일 것 같다 그렇게 예상하셨는데 이제 정말 만나게 되실지도 모르세요. 어떤 준비를 하시고 얼만큼 두렵거나 기대되세요?
사실 무섭거나 그러진 않고 어차피 이겨야 될 상대니까 저거전도 상당히 자신 있기 때문에 제가 이길 거라고 생각을 하고 만약에 8강에서 이기게 된다면 우승을 할 수 있을 거라고 생각합니다.
All right, I'm still not too scared of Zergs or Soulkey. I am very confident in any matchup right now. I am in good condition. So if I can win Soulkey, though, that means I'm very confident about taking the whole tournament here in Anaheim for BlizzCon 2013. So once again, give another big round of applause for the confident Startail Bomber going into the quarterfinals. Tell me what you think about that interview, Marcus.
You did a fantastic job, and Bomber definitely every reason to be confident. It looks good, even saying, you know, I know what my hurdles are going forward here at the global finals, and I feel like I've still got a really good chance. I do want to give a quick update over on the Esports Plus stream. It sounded like we had an SOS is up 2-0 over Hero, but we were going to go into this replay for game number 5. So Todd, why don't we go into that?
Yeah, there is this moment in the game, just a little bit before the 6 minutes. If we jump into the game, we can see we're at 5 minutes 40, and Bomber is already about to drop 2 Hellions and 4 Marines. So 5:40, this is extremely fast. I mean, some pro players, even in control here, I think wouldn't even have Warp Gate at this time. Or
Probably not.
It would be pretty difficult to defend, obviously. So
I would have forgot or something. Yeah.
Bomber is going to start dropping in units there, and we're going to be taking a look at his vision, because something very important happened. He just moves in towards the SCVs with his Hellions, and then he starts regrouping, and he goes for those pack of Marines here. And he's gonna barely stay out of the range of this one Widow Mine. He knows it's here. So for the moment, he's just gonna ignore it. He kills all of this, and then he sees the Banshee, and he's like, well, these SCVs plus that Banshee are going to town on my units. What does he do? He boosts his medivac into this mineral line over here. And look at the Widow Mine detonation. This is insane. He just destroys, well, puts those SCVs on very low hit points, and then from there, he just takes care of them with those few Marines here.
And by the way, cool of MMA to grab that spot that got weakened. I mean, that's like 5 SCVs in deep red, and he threw him out of the mineral line, which is a really quick hitting, great decision.
And in the meantime, the Banshee gets completely shut down. With 11 walkers killed at this point, Bomber knows he's very, very far ahead. And from there, he's just going to play it fairly standard, but safe. He's going to make sure he doesn't get counterattacked and killed. So I'm just going to fast forward to the end here. MMA is just going to try to basically assemble the biggest army that he can get. Yeah. And he's just going to attack very, very quickly. And by the way, you mentioned it during the game in Control. The map presence of Bomber was perfect here. He saw everything. How do you attack this guy? Like, you would have to go all the way around here. You will arrive at like 15 minutes.
You know what I like too? Fast forward to the attack. This is it's not that big of a deal, but watch how the noose is pulled. He's looking around, waiting for that attack. He scouts, no natural. Okay, I think that means there's an attack coming. SCV's a fake out. There's no intention there to expand.
He knows that
Army's already out here, and then watch all the units come back home. See that? He does lose a Viking, but he finds out where the army's coming and then intercepts. Beautiful move by Bomber here.
Now having the vision, he just has to defend this one fight. MMA knows he cannot wait here, so he's just going to go for the fight. And I mean,
well, he gets punched first in the tanks. 2 tanks, double volley against his. He knew he was losing out on his tanks. It was game over.
GG. You know, you mentioned the vision too. I did just noticing the replay too. MMA, even though he knows his opponent has so much vision, like the fact that he can dance around the shadows and know exactly where it was quite amazing too, because he wasn't showing anything until he actually moved that tank and Marine up. But so great observation there. Didn't notice that on the SCVs, but the poll was also good as well. So Bomber moves on. Our next matchup that we're going to have coming up is going to be Maru versus MC. I don't want your predictions yet. I don't want to hear them yet, but I want to talk about the old versus new matchup. I mean, the boss toss, how many tournaments, how many maps, how many guys has this guy gone through? I mean, an amazing amount. And then you've got the new guy. And to me, I think that these young kids are the ones that can be the most dangerous folks. However, internationally, outside of Korea, Maru hasn't exactly shown much. So,
not as much.
Not as much, right?
In terms of pure results.
Right. Where, I mean, on the other hand, MC, he's been around the block a few times as far as this goes. So, Maru versus MC. Ty, let's start with you. Just what do you think of this matchup overall?
I feel like Maru is very impressive overall, and even against Protoss, he's very, very impressive in the mid-game where he's gonna... He has one of the best multitask out there. And a lot of the time he tries to play with Outghost, which is not supposed to work, but just like somebody like 4GG, he makes it work. He just kills his opponent. The problem is he used that style and wasn't successful with it when he played against Deer. And MC probably went and watched these games and he's like, well, this kid doesn't want to play with Ghosts, I'm just going to make Templars. This could very well happen in those games. And Maru is going to have some kind of different plan if he wants to go up against MC with something that will just work.
Well, if the plan's Ghosts, Todd, like... I mean, doesn't that already put him one step ahead if he's just managing to win games without them?
You don't outplay or the boss toss just like that. You can't just think like, I'm going to make Ghost and I'm going to be fighting against everything. You go for Ghost, the boss toss, he's going to have Colossus.
I'll tell you what. Well, we're going to come back, talk a little bit more about this game in just a moment, but we're going to send it over to the main stage because we are moments away from our second round of 16. Red Eye, take it away.
Thanks very much, DJ Wheat, and to the guys on the analysis desk, of course, in control, and to Todd. I don't know about you, but I was actually enjoying that. I like a bit of T-on-T action, even if in control doesn't. Next up, we have the young pretender going up against the boss toss. It's Maru versus MC coming next. Don't forget, you can still interact with us via social media channels on #WCS and #BlizzCon, especially for the global finals on Twitter. Don't forget to follow @StarCraft as well on Twitter and get all the latest updates from Twitter as we go along. I've also got a couple of these cards before we take a quick break, which are the player cards right now. And just for you at home, I'm going to drop one into the crowd. Yeah, everyone at home just got very, very badly done. I told you, I warned you, be careful. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, though, it's MC versus Maru.